And now, some wisdom, courtesy of Toomgus, AMPM's lovable giant made of snacks.
Toomgus doctors say, for more balanced diet, eat egg white. Toomgus say, for even more balanced diet, eat turkey sausage egg white on ciabatta while standing on one foot. Ow. Maybe no take medical advice from Toomgus.
The new turkey sausage and egg whites on handmade ciabatta. AMPM. Too much good stuff.
While supplies last at participating locations.
Welcome. You have activated all systems. Deactivation is not an option. You must find the truth. Remember, not everything is what it seems. If you don't stand for something, you might fall for anything. The end is where we begin. Choose your decisions wisely. Change starts with us. Remember, if you don't stand for something, you might fall for anything. Because the end is where we begin.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Third Watch. We're going to get back in the saddle and ride one more time, I guess. I'm sorry for that intro audio, but Johnny was having trouble doing updates on his computer. So this was just really last second, and we're just doing the best we can here. So we're going to start bringing people on the best that we can. It's been a long time since I've done this, and the switchboard is really changed, so we'll just do the best we can, and, of course, the Lord will be with us. Let me start bringing people on. Bri, is that you?
That
yes.
would be.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Let's go for Miss Etheridge. Dori, we got you, honey?
Hello,
Very
hello.
good. Very good. We got you, Dori.
All right.
All right. I don't see Johnny here anywhere, but we do have Rob, so let's get Rob into the saddle.
Hey, guys.
Rob, you are live. How you doing, man?
Hey, Rob.
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
I am doing
Good.
fine. I'm doing good. I'm a little frazzled, though. It's been a while since I did this, try to play this game with the switchboard, and usually Brian did it for me, so we're just doing the best we can, I guess. But everybody, let's give an update, I think would be good. And, of course, ladies first. So, Dori, why don't you let everybody know what's been going on with you and, you know, all the juicy stuff, all that stuff. That's what we want to hear.
Well, I'm a little rattled, too, with the trying to roll with the flow. It's been a really, really, really long time. What did Johnny say? It was 5 years since we were all on the air together. That's a long time ago. So, anyway, catching up. Juicy stuff. I don't know. I've been on a long, strange journey, and but I'm back in Minnesota, and it's good to be on the air again with my brothers. That's for sure. And amazing how BTR was there in the back pocket to keep this thing pulled together. So amen to that. And hey, everybody. That's it.
All right. Well, yeah, this is kind of crazy because I had we got a listener in a foreign country, Dori, that wanted. I guess they have trouble getting to our audio feeds, and the best way they can do it is through their iPhones. They can't even get on BTR, so they do it through the iPhone. So they paid for the Prophetico on BTR, so that's what I was uploading things to. I didn't do them live; I just uploaded them. So, you know, we're doing the best we can.
Wow.
So maybe this all is tied in with getting back home, Dori. Who knows? But let's see here. I think we have the crazy man himself. Let's try this. Johnny, that better be you.
What's up?
What's up? All right, we got Johnny. I'm rather upset with you because I'm having to do this, and I'm like flying by the seat of my pants. Give us an update, man.
Yeah.
We need to know what's going on with the Fringe, and you know, because you're the boss now and all that crap. So let us know what happened tonight. What's up?
I bought a new hard drive for my main studio machine and did a fresh install of Windows. Turned off the update so that nothing like that would happen. And it decided to update for some reason, and then it failed because the machine put itself to sleep. So now it has been reverting back to its original changes for the last, I don't know, hour and a half. So, yeah, I was going to engineer the show. It was going to be really cool tonight. I was really looking forward to it. But we're here with you. We got it going anyway, and that's about it. We got a couple new members on the Fringe Radio Network. A guy I met through you, who you probably don't even remember, because it was back on End Time Tribune, and a guy named Fred Hinton, who spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast on National Prayer Day. He's got ministries, kids ministries in India and in Cuba and South America, and he pastors a church in Florida, and he is an inspirational coach. And he comes on, he's got a show on the Fringe Radio Network, Scoot Scoot, with Pastor Fred Hinton. Scoot 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 gets you on your way. He's a motivational guy, and so, yeah, we've got him in. We have our buddy John Mark Gomez, right? Crosshairs with John Gomez on the Fringe Radio Network. Very excited to have these two new guests, two new hosts with two new shows on the Fringe. So that is my update for tonight.
All right, well, good. Yeah, just so everybody knows this, everybody knows I'm not even a shadow of the host that Johnny is. So, you know, we're sorry that we can't be on the Fringe and Johnny can't be running the show because I'm really not any good at this. But I thank the Lord that He let us have a backup, and we're going to get Robin to the saddle. We're going to get Robin to the saddle and get a big update from him. I haven't talked with Rob probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. So we need to get a big ministry update from Rob, see where he's going, and get all the juicy stuff, Rob. Come on, what's been up?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. Wow, this is a big flashback trip down memory lane. It's pretty awesome. I was looking at the archives on Doors of Deception, and I think it's been at least 3 years since the last time I talked to you guys. Since then, wow, been doing a lot of traveling, doing a lot of conferences, have published 8 books. Somebody was dialing there. I don't know what that was. Did you hear that? Hello?
I heard that. I have no idea what that was.
That was bizarre.
That was weird.
That was me. I'm on my cell phone. I sound like I'm in a cardboard box. Sorry, Rob. I'm going to mute it now. Very sorry. Continue, please.
All right. So I've published 8 books and got a few more in the works at the moment. Still working on Seed. It has taken a lot of interesting turns since last we spoke, but it's still in the works. Got a video game in progress right now. Also working on the graphic novel and the fictional novel version of it. And paired up with another guy who's a scriptwriter out in California. And so we're trying to get 3 more. I wrote 3 scripts initially. We're trying to get 3 more done to get the initial 6 packaged up as like a mini series. So yeah, been really, really busy, constantly either on the road or, you know, digging deep into research or in production of some nature.
Well, that's kind of interesting. You'd say graphic novel. That'd be the perfect venue to go.
Yeah.
To get that seed into production, because that would generate a monetary base for you to build off of to get into production. But usually that's pretty difficult to do, to find an artist that'll work with you. So you've acquired an artist already?
I did initially. I've had 3 artists so far, but all of them were, you know, willing to volunteer and help out. But you know how volunteer work goes. I mean, when a paying job comes along, that stuff gets kind of pushed to the side, and one by one each kind of fell off. And you know, it was all on good terms. I understand, you know, why they had to leave. But I'm an artist myself, but with so much other stuff going on, I just didn't have time. But there was when I started working on the video game side of things, I upgraded some of the software that I've been using for years. One of them is a software called Poser, and it allows you to take existing 3D models and, just like it sounds, pose them and create environments for them. And you could set up cameras and lights and, you know, basically be a virtual director in a virtual 3D set. And the later versions that recently came out had a feature. And anytime I upgrade a software, I start going through the menu. Oh, what's new? And I saw this little button that said cartoon mode. And I'm like, huh, what's that? And I clicked on that, and wow, with the click of a button, it turned everything into beautifully rendered comic book art. And
Wow.
I was like, sweet. So
that is kicking.
Oh, it's amazing, dude. I created all the characters and all their outfits and everything and started building environments. And then I could just put them in the environments and pose them any way I want to, set the camera angle any way I want to, and with the click of a button, I have an instant comic book page. So,
oh, my goodness. That is kicking, man. That is kicking.
It is awesome. I mean, the initial work that you have to put in is pretty substantial, but once you've done that work, it's very quick after that. And so I did 10 pages so far. I just got sidetracked with other stuff.
Well, I hope the Lord would be with you in that endeavor, because that would make a good base for your original, the original idea for Seed, ladies and gentlemen. Was this supposed to be on the screen, whether a movie type of screen or whether a TV type of series type of screen? I can't remember. It's going so far back with me.
Yeah, it was a TV series.
So it would be a good monetary base if you could sell those graphic novels, because graphic novels are hot and they're cool too. I mean, I always, of course, I was a comic book junkie when I was a kid, but
me too.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm glad to hear that you are enduring and are endeavoring to keep on going. So, good stuff to hear, Rob. What's your website again?
Well, I've got a whole bunch of them, so I decided to create one that would be a hub to help you get to everything else, and I created robschannel.com, and from there you can get to most of my other stuff. Okay, very good. That's how you can get a hold of Rob to get any of his material, and he's quite extensive. But the basis of his ministry has always been, of course, the Genesis 6 event horizon with the Sons of God. So he has all kinds of stuff along those lines, and of course the Tower of Babel and all that kind of stuff. Yep. So I would encourage you that, if you're used to sitting in a pew, Rob will certainly open you up to new horizons, to be sure. And let's get Brian in the saddle, of course, my dear brother Brian. We've been on a hiatus here for a while because of his and his wife's ailments, and we're really blessed to have him on. And really, ladies and gentlemen, I think everybody figured out a long time that Brian is the better part of this half. So, Brian, what's up, man? What's been going on? Give everybody an update.
Not together too much of an update here. Just been up and down, going from fighting one bug after another. This winter has been a very odd one. Mm-hmm. People getting hit with one thing after another, and it's been what's been going on around here as well. So just kind of battling and fighting my way through that and hoping to get back on top of things here. I mean, it feels a little bit strange going for this long, not looking at news, and then I pull it up for tonight, and I'm sitting here looking at it, shaking my head, because there's just so many major events taking place that it's just absolutely ridiculous. You couldn't cover the amount of stuff that's happening with a week solid worth of shows at the moment. So,
yeah, at least a week. We are not short for content covering. Well, I don't know how else to put it, but the birth pains. We are, ladies and gentlemen. It would be my appraisal of the situation if you really take a look around at the news. It would be my appraisal that if this was my wife, I would direct the doctor to start checking dilation. We're to the part where this is no joke. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say that child labor in Bangladesh, constantly every day, human trafficking with children, ministry gets arrested for every single day, which makes me think of the Assyrian and the slaughter of the innocents.
Yes.
So
yes, it
it's
does.
just terrible. Children of war, humans of the battle lines, and it's pictures of children. So yeah, man.
Yeah, it's off the charts, Dori. This window of time that we're in has been very. How do you put that? Whenever you think about what the Lord considers to hold the most value, and whenever I think of the Scripture, I can't get that picture of that little boy that washed up on the beach in Greece, and everybody made a jest of it. I can't seem to get him out of my mind. And then I have, of course, everybody knows that Brian and I have lots of listeners there on the ground, and one of them sent me pictures. God have mercy. Endless pictures of the children that ISIS had butchered. They were marching them, and they would make them dig their own grave and then get down in a long trench and then just start shooting them. So this is the type of situation that we're in today. We are heading at breakneck speed somewhere, and I don't think where we're going is very good.
It's like Herod's in charge of the world again, or something.
Yes, it is.
Well,
it's
this
just
even,
like that, actually.
Remember, we were talking a couple of weeks ago, Matthew, and we had that story pop up when I was scanning through Iran's news, which I'm doing again right now at the moment, because with certain events that have fallen into place over the last, I'd say, 6 months, that already had stood out that Iran needs to be kept under very close watch here at this stage of the game. We had a story a few weeks ago that they were actually training children up as far as bringing them into their military forces, and then on top of it, they dropped a bomb that they were also planning on using them to attack Israel.
Yes. Oh my God. Lord have mercy. Yes, if you do a news search for that, you'll be able to find it. I wasn't able to do a whole lot of prepping for this. I mean, everything I've been looking at and keeping track of has been on the astronomical side, and then over the past 3 days, I've been looking at the late great planet Earth, and especially the tremors and stuff like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been trying to avoid looking at this news about the children. So I don't really have any of that information prepped for us tonight, but we have plenty to talk about, and I would think that we need to jump in here and start taking turns at whatever news that is on each of the co-host heart, and I will go last. I will try to hold my tongue until the last, ladies and gentlemen, like I always do. So, Dori, why don't you cover at least one of the news articles that you want to, and we'll just all jump in and give our thoughts about whatever news item you're wanting to talk about. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let me get to my. I want to talk about Venezuela. Let me see if I can, with all I'm discombobulated too with all the tech. I'm not even a tech person, and just Johnny having tech stuff just like threw me for a loop. Anyway, I know that I just had it up here. Anybody else? It's gonna take me a minute to dig this up, I think.
Yeah, that's all right. Dori.
Okay.
It is proper, of course, for us to give you the first play in the game. So that's all right. If you want to bow out till you're ready, that's fine. Rob, was you ready to cover what news items you wanted to talk about? You just give us the info, and then we'll jump in and add our thoughts to it.
Sure. I just did a conference in Evansville, Indiana, and one of the things they wanted me to talk about was the archways of Baal, that were supposed to be set up in New York City and in Trafalgar Square, and then other reports later came out that there were going to be, I think, hundreds of them being put up all over the place. And of course, going back to when Dori was talking about me coming back on the show, I was like, oh boy, I'm going to have to go look at the archives because my brain's mush. I mean, I don't remember 3 years ago. I don't barely remember 3 weeks ago. So I was like, I got to go back a little bit and refresh my mind. And, back in those archives that I listened to, we were all really just sort of in the beginning stages of looking into the Nimrod issue and Semiramis and, Pleiades and Orion and the pyramids and the resurrection chambers of Osiris. And, we're looking into all that stuff, and we're putting pieces together and connecting dots and realizing how many different names some of these characters were known by. And so, of course, I imagine when you guys first saw those news reports, your red flags probably went off as much as mine did. I was like, what? Then I heard that wasn't going to be the case, at least not in New York. And then I heard that it was still going to happen, but they changed the name, but it's still basically the same thing. So whatever the case may be, just the fact that they intended to do it alone was pretty big on my radar. And looking at the world stage and the way things are going everywhere, we all know that we are well into the, as you said earlier, the birth pangs, and something's about to be birthed in the very near future. CERN, stuff going on with CERN is obviously of concern for us. And then most recently, in fact, last night I uploaded a video. It's already got about 3,000 views, I think. On the General Mark, I think his name was Mark Milley, this 4-star general that gave a speech to some ROTC cadets. And in the speech, he's talked about that you're going to be dealing with hybrid armies and little green men. Now, of course, a lot of the internet community latched onto that, and I was one of them. Like, what? Especially with the type of research that some of us do. And then very quickly, people started coming out and debunking that, saying, no, those are common military terms. Hybrid army just simply means, various types of warfare blended together as sort of a hybrid for tactical reasons and whatnot. And little green men are apparently just Russian soldiers in unmarked uniforms. And so the video I posted last night was basically saying, okay, yes, I was in the military, and I know that there are all kinds of code words and, names that are used that don't necessarily mean what you would normally take them to mean. But I speculated and wondered if this might not just be a psyop. Because prior to perhaps the last couple of months with this Russian unmarked uniform situation, if you went to anybody in the street, probably anywhere in the world, and said, hey, what does the phrase little green men mean? And everybody's going to say aliens, Martians, or something to that effect, because we've been literally inundated with that imagery since the beginning of the 1900s. Edgar Rice Burroughs, I think is his name, the guy who wrote Tarzan, wrote The Princess from Mars or something like that, and that's when he cast the Martians as little green men. This has been something in the public consciousness forever. And hybrid armies, man, my second book, Archon Invasion, I was pointing out that we had hybrid giant armies at war as early as 450 years after the flood, where Josephus talks about the Genesis 14 war, saying that this was a war with the offspring of the giants. So the video I put up last night was basically going through the biblical timeline and showing that, we had giants, we had animal-human chimera, we had hybrid armies throughout the Bible, and someone said what has been will be again. So again, I'm going to ask, is this a psyop? Are they just trying to, nothing to see here, don't worry about it, nothing to see here. Meanwhile, the locusts are about ready to come up out of the bottomless pit, and we're going to have chimeric centaur, 200 million centaurs running around. I don't know, but these are some of the interesting news reports that I've latched onto as of late.
Well, Rob, we have no shortage of the supernatural. There's no debating that. But you're right. This is their normal operating tactic, is it not? To come out and blatantly tell you something, and then wait about 20 minutes and tell you that's not what they meant, when that's exactly what they said. So they're experts at this, but we know they have been trying, even if they do mean hybrid army by way of even troops, ladies and gentlemen. Normally it's standard military terminology. A hybrid army is NATO. When you have a separate chain of commands being commanded by a single entity, that's a hybrid army. Let's say if we do a field exercise with Germans and Italians, that's a hybrid army. Mm-hmm. However, it's been in the news, all over the news, probably since 2010. They have been actively trying to create super soldiers, messing with the DNA.
That's right.
They've been doing what should not be done, and this is what they're really doing. The Lord our God tells us point blank, ladies and gentlemen, that He and He alone knits you together in your mother's womb. He does so with the stitches that you know of as the chromosome. That weave is put together with stitches of DNA. And they are trying to replace those strands with something else. Of course, when I was in the military, when I was guarding several facilities, you have to understand that one of the things they desperately wanted to try to do was to implement some bear DNA. They wanted to latch on the bear's ability to hibernate. So they were working on that from the beginning, playing with these things. And these are all things that are in the news. But, of course, with that, of course, they would love to have the bear's strength as well. But you are messing with the fabric of God's children. That's what they're doing. That's illicitly what they're intending to do. But to pick off certain animalistic traits and, of course, mingle them with the seed of men, making, well, not chimeras, ladies and gentlemen. You have to understand that biblically, especially in the Septuagint, of course, Brian and I did a show on that. The Bible is very clear when it talks about the chimeras, but they are not a part of humanity. They are half angelic and half animal. Whether it be the reptilian kingdom or the fish kingdom or the invertebrate kingdom, animals in general. So Brian and I have talked about this extensively, but that's what they want to do. So this is something else. This is not a chimera. It does not have the seed of heaven mingled with it. What they're trying to do is take the seed of men and mingle it here. They're trying to make the clay miry. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that if you're a Christian that's familiar with the King James Version of the Bible, it uses that terminology quite often. A miry clay. And it's these types of things that they know full well what the Bible says, and they know full well the Bible's true. So based on such terminology, they have surmised that they could do it. And don't ever forget this, ladies and gentlemen. The in vitro capital of the world is the state of Israel. It has always been. All major research into human DNA has always been done as far back as the outbreak of what you know to be AIDS. Yes, look into it. That's where that came from. So, knowing that, ladies and gentlemen, you should have seen this coming. This is not conspiratorial at all. They've talked about this stuff out in the open. But Brian has also done extensive research on this, and so has Dori, looking into them, trying to make these hybrids. So, Brian, why don't you share your thoughts on this issue and some of your memories about your research before about them trying to make man's clay that God made us with miry?
Well, looking back on it, the biggest thing that stood out is sort of what you brought up right there with the mixing of various genetic properties, not from the seed of heaven, but more or less, when you looked into some of these DARPA projects that were going on, there was all kinds of rumored, with some fairly good proposed evidence backing it that certain things were going on, for instance, at Montauk and a few other places where you could quite clearly tell they were messing around with genetics. One of the things that stood out, though, is, as far as those Montauk reports went, you could quite clearly see that these things they were attempting to make there, they'd get out and they were literally falling apart at the seams from the remains that they were finding. So what is it they were trying to actually combine? Makes you wonder when you see something that's, completely fallen apart like these things were, these different reports were showing up. They were fairly well documented. Some television programs covered them and across the board. So,
yeah, that's what it reminded me of, especially we had several great creatures wash up on shore. And then we had found other ones. I think it was in the Brazilian woods. I think Dori told us about that one. But when you looked at the picture, it looked like it was falling apart, becoming, I don't know, perhaps the stitches were coming undone. So let's get Dori's thoughts on this. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Well, even the pharmaceutical industry, they keep, they'll put a smidge, I'll just say a smidge because that's my really technical term, of DNA into a mouse or a whatever to make a certain drug, so that the smidge of human DNA that they put into this animal, that they then extract a serum or a secretion to make drugs, to combat different things, so that there isn't such a rejection by the body. And of course, the one that comes to mind, and they actually tell you when you look it up that they've used a mouse human chimera, although, as Matthew pointed out, the definition of chimera is angelic animal, not human animal. But even the pharmaceutical companies are doing this. And some things, like if we go back to, because I was listening to archives too, and I know Johnny shared a song with us, and I don't know if he ever finished it. It was called Solomon's End, and he had like 30 seconds. Anyway, things had broken out of that facility that's over by Broom Lake in Nevada. There were reports, and you would hear these things on shows like Coast to Coast, and eyewitnesses would come on and tell you that, there was a breach of security and things were locked down because some kind of creature had escaped. And so, it's not just the pharmaceutical industry, but underground laboratory scientists, really almost like what you'd see in science fiction movies. That actually does go on. And sometimes those animals, like Brian mentioned, the Montauk, quote, monster, sometimes they get out and they're seen and they're photographed, and they usually do fall apart in some way, shape, or form.
Well, Dori, I hate to go, entertainment industry on us here, but it reminds me of Blade Runner, ladies and gentlemen. That old movie with Harrison Ford where they did this exact thing, and that's what happened to those. What do you call that? These machinations.
Mm-hmm.
These
were they
artificial.
I don't remember seeing that movie.
Well,
right.
It had Rutger Hauer in it too.
Cyborgs.
Yeah, yeah, they were human constructs. They had put together a bunch of DNA and made a thing, but that was the basis of the movie. This one group of artificials, they got upset because they had a termination date. They would fall apart. Their stitches would come undone at a certain date, and they would die. And that's what the whole movie was about. They were trying to overcome that deficiency of their knitting becoming unweaved. So let's get Johnny's thoughts on this. Johnny, jump in here. What's up with the, I don't know, human, animal, whatever you want to call them?
Oh, hey, I just realized this is my 20th anniversary of having a domain website on the internet. In 1996, I had a website that actually was one of Art Bell's favorites. It was like one of the only ones out there. Mid-90s, The Strange. It was the-strange.com. You can still see it on the Internet Web Archives, but
that was cool.
Yeah, I actually won an award for an article I'd written on the Hollow Earth. I won an award from the Department of the literary department at UCLA. That's kind of weird. Anyway, I had a lot of articles about a lot of strange stuff. And anyway, I had a friend who was a soldier of fortune, mercenary, big black guy named Don. And he was like, dude, man, he goes, I saw your website, The Strange, the other day, white boy. That's really something. I was like, oh, you like that? He goes, yeah. He goes, you believe all that stuff? I go, oh, yeah. You believe in the Hollow Earth? I go, oh, yeah. He's like, hey, I got something that actually happened to me when I was working on a military base in the Midwest. And he goes, but I don't want you to put it on your website. And I'm like, well, tell me what happened. He's like, nah, I'm not going to tell you. He goes, because if you don't believe me, I'll kick your ass right here and I'll get fired. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to call you a liar. He goes, well, you better not. You better not even crack a smile. Because he was a badass guy, Don. He's soldier of fortune. He's military, wild man. Anyway, so he tells me the story. He goes, well, okay, right. Because I was working on a military base in the Midwest. And he goes, I'm not going to tell you which state. He goes, because, I could get in a lot of trouble if I got out, stuff. But he goes, I was just a guard, but I had, I had a pretty high security clearance just being a guard. Anyway, I was driving my pickup through the woods to work one day, to the base, and all of a sudden, he goes, this thing comes out from the right side of the road, from out of the bushes. He goes, I swear to God, this thing was 9-10 feet tall. It looked like it was half human, half bear, part dog, maybe like a hyena a little bit, mostly human. But it saw me, and I slammed on my brakes, and it came up to my car, and it put its face against the windshield of my car, and it was just drooling, and snot was pouring out of its nose, because it just literally covered my windshield with snot and drool, and it was it was making these horrible tormented sounds, just kind of sniffing and grunting and just going he goes, dude, I was frozen in fear. He goes, you'd think I would have put it in reverse or went forward or something, but he goes, I couldn't move. I was so terrified. And he goes, the worst thing about it, he goes, was that the pupils in the eyeball. I said, yeah. He goes, how you and me they're like round little black dots, and like in a cat they're like, crescents, like slits. Yeah. He goes, this thing's pupils were spirally, like those old cartoons, when Wile E. Coyote gets hit with a big hammer, And I was going, oh, wow. He goes, yeah, they were black spirals, and he said they were contracting and dilating and contracting and dilating as this thing was moaning and drooling all over his car. He goes, but I know it was from the base, because I know that they were doing strange experiments down there. And he goes, and I know for damn sure it was from the base, because it was wearing one of those prison jumpsuits, and you could tell that it had been a custom-made jumpsuit, because it wasn't, it looked like they'd, brought in some seamstresses, to try to, make him one, because, the thing was 9-10 feet tall. He goes, it was kind of crooked, and you could tell the seams the seams weren't quite right. You know, it wasn't like factory made. Everything. I go, so what did you do? He goes, dude, I just waited there until the thing finally lost interest in me, and then just walked off into the woods to the left. And so I believe every bit of that story to this day. I believe every single word. So that's my contribution to the strange hybrid chimera thing.
Well, no, that's good. You would acquire a first-hand witness that you befriended to let us know the incident, because, ladies and gentlemen, that's the best type of witnesses, those that are made up of or comprised of our friendships. And I've seen things in the military that I care not to talk about, and I'm sure Brian did as well. But the problem with this thing would have been, problems with the irises, of course. You see, because they can't control what it's going to do. I mean, they think they can map out the genome and construct their own chromosome to make whatever they want. However, they fail to realize that it's God who holds the keys. So with an iris that had a shutter type of apparatus, of course, the creature probably couldn't even see what he was looking at. That's probably why he was slobbering all over everything. He was probably, he was probably in torment, I would imagine. So
yeah, he said the pupil the black part was a spiral. Does that make any sense?
Well, sure.
You can imagine. He said it was just like the old cartoons where Wile E. Coyote or one of the cartoon characters gets hit on the head and their eyes turn into spirals.
Right.
Yeah, so the black part looked just like that.
Well, what that does, ladies and gentlemen, that machination is just a shutter on a camera. So when the pupil is very wide, it's letting in more light. And if this thing being, not natural, it was probably having problems focusing that, because it would have been all right if it would have had pure snake DNA. It would have been able to, of course, operate that shutter mechanism. If it would have had normal round pupils, it probably could have had the motor skills within its brain to operate that shutter. But with this thing that was not natural, who knows what the poor creature was going through. If it could not properly adjust the light entering the eyes, that's probably what got the soldiers' attention of it, because it couldn't dilate the eyes, and the brightness of his headlights probably was very painful to it. Most of us know that, lots of people suffer from migraines, and you'll see elderly use sunglasses exclusively because it hurts their eyes. So who knows what this poor creature was going through? Because we have no event horizon for that type or that form of physiology. The iris has been designed by God one of two ways: either spherical or horizontal or vertical, or a slit or a round place. That is the best, most efficient way to do it. So this poor creature, who knows what he was suffering. But
yeah, he said that the fear, the fear went away after maybe 3 or 4 minutes, because he could tell that the thing was just suffering. It just broke his heart, and that's really that's the part of the story that really got me. So I hope they put it out of its misery. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Rob, your thoughts on these experiments? I don't know. And you've got a lot of listeners that keep track of this, so you've probably got some more examples. But anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, when you consider what DARPA has been doing and continues to do and plans to do, and you marry it up with the transhumanist movement and the 2045 Strategic Social Initiative and their goal to achieve immortality, we would say, parenthetically, apart from God, by doing so through transhumanism and blending not just with animals but also with machines. And you marry all that together with the idea of creating a basically remorseless, sleepless, and in some cases doesn't even need to eat or drink much super soldier. It gets really frightening because, let's say you create this super soldier, and when his enlistment ends, that stuff doesn't just turn off. It's not like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to be normal man again or woman. You've basically created a remorseless killing machine for life. And my thought on all of that was, oddly enough, heavily influenced by one of the Spider-Man movies. And it was because I was studying the ancient myths and, of course, diving deep into Genesis 6. And you see that all flesh becomes corrupted, but you also see that there was men's hearts, they had nothing but evil continually and tremendous violence that led up to the days before the flood. And in the movie, one of the Spider-Man movies where his enemy was the lizard, the guy who became the lizard was a normal guy. He had lost part of his arm, and people who followed the comic books know that he lost it in combat, and he was in the military. And anyway, he was a good guy. He had good intentions. He was, obviously wanting to have his arm back. So as a scientist, geneticist, he was looking to see what is the genetic code in lizards that allows for limb regeneration. And, with good intentions, he's, obviously if he could grow his arm back, that would be great for him. But, it would also be very helpful for many people who have lost limbs for whatever reason. And but he's blending lizard DNA initially with mice. He was cutting off the legs of mice and then incorporating the lizard DNA into the mouse DNA until they finally got one that was viable and the mouse's leg grew back. And he's like, great, it works, success. So he injects his stump, and sure enough, his arm grows back. But then he has this really unfortunate side effect, and that he becomes a giant, lizard-human hybrid that has only evil continually for the rest of the movie. And that's where it really becomes sobering, because you have these geneticists, you have these scientists, you have these Hugo de Garis, right? He's got this book called that deals with this concept of the Ardalect War, and by that he's talking about, okay, there's going to come a time when we're going to reach the singularity, and machine wisdom, understanding, knowledge, intellect is going to far exceed human. And Moore's law is just going to take over, and it's going to be this exponential God computer, basically. And there's going to be an Ardalect war. Ardalects being the artificial intelligence, and Terrans, he identifies Terrans as you and I, just normal people. And he says prior to the Ardalect war, there's going to be a war where the Terrans are going to try to take out the Cosmists, and the Cosmists are the people who are doing this research. And it's like the movie Transcendence. And we're on the cusp of those days right now. It's happening now. And as Christians who understand the prophetic significance of this and understand biblical as well as historical, archaeological evidence of hybridization and how it led to only evil continually and constant violence, we kind of have a responsibility here to make people aware of it, first of all. But, what are we supposed to do after that? And are we headed for this Terran versus Cosmist war that could lead into the Ardalect war? That at that point we're in Terminator stage. We're in Blade Runner stage, as mentioned earlier. This is very sobering stuff. But the bottom line is, as soon as you start tinkering with the kinds that God said everything must reproduce after its own kind in the perfect creation that He established, when you start messing all that up, the end result of that, historically speaking, has always been evil and violence continually. And just the fact that let's start with our soldiers. Soldiers are naturally, you guys have been in the military, I was in the military. In the military, you're trained to kill. That's your job. But this takes it to a whole other terrifying level when you don't really need sleep, you don't really need food and water, and they turn off your remorse filters and pretty much anything that would allow you to feel or have a conscience, and just send you out as a killing machine. This is where we are. And, those are the things that are very much on my mind. This vision or this experience that Johnny's friend had, is it real? I don't know. There's no way I could vet that. But it doesn't surprise me that it could be. Because things are happening in Montauk experiments, Plum Island, Groom Lake, Area 51. There's no question things are happening, and it's not just in our country. They're happening. There's probably islands of Dr. Moreau out there. So we're in for some very interesting days.
Yes, we are. And the one thing that everybody forgets is what separates us. We are made in the image of the Lord our God, and that gives us an exclusive part to his part of power, and that is, of course, the Trinity. And there's a quagmire out there in theology, but you have God the Father that makes the decisions, of course, God the Holy Spirit, which is over the emotional aspect of things, and of course God the Son, the physical aspect. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the problem that we're dealing with here, because animals don't have emotions, nor do machines. Now, I can talk quite a lot about this because the biochips were being experimented with and done when I was back in an institution of higher learning. And my secondary major, of course, was computer. You have to understand what this means. A biochip, ladies and gentlemen, is just a computer chip that is made with organic material. They grow it. This being the case, they know it can be coupled with organic physiology, whether it be a poor lab rat, a dog, or of course a human. They know that's the only way you could have live interaction between the synapses of the brain and a chip. It would have to be done using biotechnology, that which has the impulse or the breath of God, mechanically speaking. So, of course, this is one of the great contentions of Darwinianism. Of course, they're idiots. They're animals do not have emotions. We know, like a cat, if you scare a cat, it does not get emotional with you. It, of course, will gather its legs together and hump and arch its back, raise the hairs up on its back. Those are all physical defense mechanisms that's just natural to the feline. Every one of those things I just mentioned. Of course, the raising of the hair is a great hindrance to claws. If you should swipe it with a claw, if you be a dog or a bear. These are all natural defense mechanisms. It does not have emotions. And once you separate the power and the likeness of the image of the Lord our God and take out of the equation the Holy Spirit aspect, you have something else. It will be driven to evil, because we know that the difference between right and wrong is simply this: the spirit that doth flutter over the surface of the waters. So when you try to create something other than, whether it be man with beast or man with machine, you're going to get something very cold and very calculated. And the things that Rob brought up, there's things that I mentioned that I had witnessed in the Army. You need to understand that's what they want. They want these things to have terminal disposition. You see, ladies and gentlemen, you must eat. You must drink water. And if you do not implement those things into the physiology of the creature you're trying to create, you just automatically gave it an ETS date. Now, what's an ETS date? That's the date when you leave the military, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you realize that as they breed these things, they would automatically have a termination event? If they did not eat, they could simply kill, murder, pillage until they ran out of energy, then they would automatically die. They wouldn't have to recall them from the battlefront. They would only have to pay for half of the transport. Just transport to the front lines. They don't have to worry about paying for all that fuel to get them back to base, so to speak. So, with that in mind, we know exactly where this would go. We know exactly where this would wind up. But someone also brought up this hollow earth concept. I think it was Dori that brought up the hollow earth. And there's a whole lot of things going on in that field too. But Dori, your thoughts on everything that everybody talked about right then? Come on, Dori, unmute yourself.
Oh, here we go again.
Here we go again.
Oops. Okay, so there are now Nile crocodiles in Florida. DNA has confirmed that man-eating crocodiles from the Nile area of Egypt are in Florida. They're not sure how they got there. I assume pets, just like Burmese pythons. People can ship any exotic, almost, that you can think of over the United States through black market means. But anyway, and then shark attacks are up in 2015, and the most shark attacks occur off the coasts of the United States, 59 in the United States compared to like 18 in Australia. So things are happening with the animals already. Never mind hybrid things, just even the natural creatures are showing up in strange places and they're attacking more frequently than they have before. So there's just a lot of things to keep an eye on, a lot of things to watch.
Yes, there
what
is.
Does Brian
I
think?
hope. Yeah, Brian, what say you?
Not too much at this point in time. I've still been scanning through news stories here, so I'm a little bit off of my own
No, that's
thing at
fine,
the moment. So
yeah, that's fine. Why don't you jump right in here with something you're looking at? Let's do this thing, man. This is Third Watch.
yeah, well, we get to go into the good old strangeness on multiple things that we've been kind of hinting at that folks should keep an eye on. Turkey, we had a coup against Parliament. Politicians and analysts slam a lifting of the Turkish MP's immunity, a.k.a. there's massive infighting within the Parliament and various government institutions inside of Turkey. Well, there's been a whole lot of dirty things going on behind the scenes there, so this is, to a degree, not altogether that much of a shock if you've been paying attention to it. Another one we talked about a while back concerning a covenant with death, and I think this does, to a degree, work into some of the things that we're talking about as far as genetic material goes, because, as we had pointed out, when you are dealing with these natural gases and oil, you're dealing with very ancient decayed material, and that's what we use as fuel, folks. We had told people to keep an eye out for this one, and this was just released, let's see, yesterday. Israel close to sealing offshore gas deal after compromise, and this is the Leviathan gas line that's been up and down in dealings. There's also been gas line dealings with Cyprus as well, and I haven't kept an eye on that to see where that's went yet. Now, a very big one, and this is the first time since all of these varied attacks have happened throughout what we would consider the Western nations. For instance, when France was hit, and I had pointed to people time and time and time again, folks, this has nothing to do with the randomness. They did not pick France for no reason. Most of the Islamic State has been going ballistic about the Sykes-Picot line. And just today on Al Jazeera, lines in the sand, the story of the century-old deal which aimed to carve up the Middle East in ways that still reverberate today. So I find it a little bit odd after taking this extended break. I come back and here's all these events sitting here right in broad daylight in the news today. And we're sitting in silence here.
Hello, Brian. Love you, man. I have a couple things I'm dying to talk about.
Okay, wait until after the break. Wait until after the break.
Audio.
I don't know what these are, but ladies and gentlemen, I got a flash drive with old stuff on it. It says Iron Show Striper Break. So I don't know why it says Iron Show. I'm not sure why it says that, but we're going to play it. I know we've been on here an hour and 10 minutes. We usually do a break at an hour. It's what Brian usually wants to do. That's why he usually sets it up. But I guess this is going to be Striper. At least I hope it is. And we'll be back here in just about 7 minutes. So host, please remember that I don't know if I can mute you or not, so please mute yourselves and be quiet while the break is playing, because I really don't understand how to do that. But we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, in 7 minutes here on Third Watch.
Gonna hide in another
don't know, you better figure it out. Your boy Johnny, IronShow.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Third Watch. I want to give a shout-out to all the guests that are graciously in the chat room. All the gang here at Third Watch earnestly and desperately hopes that the Lord our God might be with you. We don't know your situation. We don't know where you're at. So we'll be praying for all the guests in the chat room, whoever you might be. It's good that you're here. I hope that you're blessed by this broadcast. We're doing the best we can tonight. Johnny wanted to jump to the saddle. He said he had some things he just had to talk about. So, what's up? What's up, Johnny?
What's up? What's up? Hey, I had a chance to go to 7-Eleven on the break. I actually made it. I just pulled back into the trailer park. Okay. Well, first thing I wanted to say is that of all of the other hosts on the show tonight, since we have rob-skiba here tonight, I wanted to say that rob-skiba, out of all you guys, Rob is the only guy only one of you that I've ever met in person. And so the rest of you could be computer avatars or things like I think Dori, I'm convinced that Dori is a 90-year-old man in a pervert suit. I mean, a 90-year-old pervert in a girl suit. What's that? But I know Rob is real because I met him in person. And let me tell you, rob-skiba is very good looking. I was really surprised. I had an instant man crush on him when I first met him. And I said, this is the first thing I said. I just walked up to him. I go, Rob, I had no idea you were so pretty. He's like, thanks, Johnny, I guess.
You're scaring me, dude.
No, I don't. I don't mean it in a gay way, but yeah, Rob is really cool to actually hang out with it in person. I hung out with him for a couple days, like it was, here and there. It was awesome to hang out with him. But anyway, what I've been. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that Dori's obviously paranormal because she's broadcast from the bathroom before.
The gloves are off now.
For the memories.
That's right, ladies. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. From the bathroom, Dori on video. You look. You just would have had to been there.
No, I was not on video.
That's not what I wanted to talk about, but talking about memories, one of my favorite third watch, that's not what I wanted to talk about, but you guys brought up memories. My favorite third watch memory from ancient times is you were getting really serious, Matthew, and you said the Lord is coming, Jesus is coming, my friends, and this time he's wearing a 3-piece suit. And I go, you mean just like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever? And you were quiet for a second, and you went, yes, Johnny, just like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. We all started singing Staying Alive. I don't know if you guys remember that.
No, I don't think I remember that. I don't think I remember that at all, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, you can find it in the archives. I'm not lying. And I also pointed out one interesting fact is that Jesus is coming in the clouds, but I had just seen a documentary on John Travolta like a week earlier, and he had just purchased a used Boeing 707. He's a pilot. And so I pointed out that you may have to be careful because it may be John Travolta coming in the clouds. You have to check his ID. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to check his ID.
No, what I've been
oh my God.
What I've been wanting to talk about. Can we get serious here for a minute? Oh no. Johnny's here now. One thing that's really, I'm like you, Matthew. I'm like really into astronomy. I actually wrote a book on astronomy when I was 7 years old. Space and its galaxies. I still got it somewhere. It's pretty retarded, but yeah, I had telescopes and everything when I was a kid. And so, I've been a diehard Planet Xer since 1983. It came out in our school textbook. We had it in a school textbook, and I remember reading about it. And then later, I found out, about 10 years ago, I found out that they had kind of pulled that textbook from the shelves, and not that many people had seen it, but I had seen it. That really got me into Planet X, since I was in my early 20s. What was I, 21 in 83? Anyway, I have really also been into Torah codes lately, and who I like to listen to on the Torah codes is the actual hardcore rabbis in Israel. When they start, doing their Torah codes, I pay attention because, I don't know, it seems like those are the guys that are really qualified to mention the Torah codes or to say anything about it. And are you guys familiar with Rabbi Glazerson?
Yes,
I've heard. Yes.
Okay, a couple months ago, it was maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, Rabbi Glazerson found in Deuteronomy, he found, it didn't say Planet X, it was, let me see the exact thing he found was, he found, in Deuteronomy, he found threat of a star, and it crossed with Shavit, which is the Hebrew word for comet. And near there, not crossing those two, but near there, he also found Nibiru. And there's a couple other rabbis who've confirmed that. And these guys are all in Israel. These guys are like highly respected rabbis in Israel. And another rabbi, his name is Yuval Obadiah. I think you say it Obadiah is how you pronounce his name. But he said that the rabbis in Israel began to talk about Nibiru and Planet X 40 years ago, and it's kind of been in their inner circles since then. So that kind of really got me. That little thing, that little detail really got me. The rabbis have been into Planet X for 40 years, the rabbis in Israel. And then here we have Glazerson 6 weeks ago finding threat of a star which crosses with the Hebrew word Shavit, comet, and that was found in Deuteronomy. And also near that, they found in the Torah code Nibiru, which also they found in Deuteronomy, I believe. But the other shocking thing that isn't Planet X, but really coincides kind of with it, in my opinion, you guys probably end up agreeing with me, is that they found the wrong Messiah. They have just found the wrong Messiah doing, get this, doing a 5,776 equidistant letter skip. They found the exact word was Messiah, son of Joseph, Messiah, son of David, and they found that with a 5,776 equidistant letter skip, along with they actually found 5776 in the same area. That scares me. That's the wrong Messiah. And the Talmud and all these rabbis, including Glazerson, they believe in the Talmud that he's going to come out of the Garden of Eden and come to Galilee, and that's the wrong Messiah right there. But that 5776, for those who don't know, is the Hebrew year that coincides with, right about, let's see now, and part of next year as well. So, anyway, you guys got to have comments on that stuff.
Yeah, Brian and I have talked extensively about the Nice model. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty sure that as far as the Christian community goes, the Bri brought you that stuff first, about the Nice model, the rearrangement of the heavens, and Christ's literal interpretation when he said, "You will see the sign of the Son of Man." Oh, the astrophysicists literally have proven that to be the case before. But, Johnny, I just did a show for the listeners on this on TalkShoe. I normally don't plug myself, but I do some stuff on TalkShoe, and especially let's see, who was that? Nathaniel? I think it was Nathaniel that sent me a video on the Nibiru topic, and he asked me some private questions. So I did that show on TalkShoe about it. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, they knew because they knew of Meraz. Meraz is a star talked about in the Scripture. They know that it is the scapegoat because, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that God just doesn't give you direction for, well, no reason. He doesn't do that. He does everything through shadow and silhouette. Absolutely everything. Nothing is left by the wayside when it comes to how he does things. Now, if you go to Leviticus chapter 16, the law of atonement, you have to understand there is a scapegoat. You have to understand that they tied a ribbon around its neck, a red ribbon, laid bare upon it the sins of Israel, and sent it, of course, out into the wilderness. They know that the Messiah is the actual sacrificial lamb. Well, what the Nice model has put together, I'll get Brian to talk about that here in a minute because, technically speaking, it's already been proved that we have this played out in the heavens, and that is the reason why the Lord our God instructed us to fulfill this Passover sacrifice the way he did, the sacrificial lamb and, of course, the scapegoat being sent out. Of course, that scapegoat is widely known. Rob has talked about it extensively, I think. I know that Dori has. So please understand that the rabbis knew this because of the book of Judges. And by the way, let me go ahead and plug Johnny's show. Rabbi Mike and I and Johnny have been doing a series on the book of Judges. So you might want to check that out. Pretty important stuff that we do over there. But I'm sorry. Got this stupid chest cold. Judges chapter 5 and verse 23, we're told of the strange star Meraz. And you have to understand that in the Septuagint, it talks about this, and Brian and I have got some things on the back burner. We're going to explain to you exactly what's talked about in the Septuagint as far as the book of Daniel goes and the sacrifice being made unclean or an abomination. We have to understand that the rabbis knew this long before Zechariah Sitchin ever decided to lie about anything. This interloper, you would want to look to the heavens and look for something that had been ejected, just like the scapegoat. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they found that. I'm talking about real things. I'm not talking about imaginary things, and I assure you that the rabbis consider the term Nibiru to be laughable. So you're getting what is for public consumption. I'm telling you what I found out over 3 decades ago about the interloper. I had Orthodox rabbis explain to me about and the abomination that makes desolate. And it's pertaining to the daily sacrifice that is performed by the procession of the stars. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, they've known about this a whole lot longer than what you think, but it is very intriguing that Johnny would bring up certain rabbis that would go public in English with this concept of a planet X or a Nibiru type of celestial body. But Brian is well-versed in this, and we need to get his comments on it, what the Lord our God has to say about it, and what the astrophysicists have proven to be the case. Pretty cool stuff. So, Brian, why don't you jump in here and do a far better job than I can?
The ideal thing here to point out, folks, for those of you that don't know, because it's actually rather unknown, is when we refer to this Nice model, which is essentially, if you look at the age-old Atlantis tale, it speaks of the celestial bodies leaving their courses, a.k.a. what happens? Planets leave their courses, and they play a rather destructive game of pool meets ping pong as they sort of realign themselves and shift themselves throughout the galaxy. Has this happened before? Well, according to scientific data and what started out as a proposed theory concerning this niche model, now they accept this as scientific fact. Now, I guess the question to a lot of people at this point in time is, well, where is this in the Bible? If you take a stroll over to Job 38, and especially concerning when it starts talking about the Mazzaroth, you're going to find something a little entertaining when you go to hit on your definitions, as many of the words go into unknown definition. And that's where I got to spend about a good 2 weeks defining those words by breaking them down to bits and pieces of their roots, their, what the heck do you call those? The pronouns, the pre, et cetera, on down the line. And you end up finding out in Job 38 that that's exactly what it's talking about, is these planets leaving their courses. And one of the big important factors in this is the planet Jupiter. Now, I find it interesting that earlier Johnny was bringing up that planet Nibiru. And this is something very important to point out concerning the Sumerian and the other texts, that the Babylonian and so forth, that actually was known as Jupiter at that point in time. So what they are telling you inadvertently is you are looking at, well, what they refer to in this article here from the simple Wikipedia is a jumping Jupiter scenario. So with this, we have now this discovery of a very high probability, because they haven't completely verified this, but there's more than enough data to say, hey, look, folks, there's something there. And they have found what is called a ninth planet out there now. And this also has been brought into a lot of the data they're looking at with the NICE model, and here's what it has to say on this. In January of 2016, Bettigan and Brown proposed that a distant, massive ninth planet is responsible for the alignment of the perihelia of several trans-Neptunian objects with semi-major axes greater than 250 AU, which is a astronomical measurement. Although the mechanism for the ejection of the fifth giant planet in the five-planet NICE model is reminiscent of the origin of Planet 9 with a gravitational stability, including an encounter with Jupiter, it is unlikely to be the same planet. The estimated timing of the capture of Planet 9 onto its distant orbit 3 to 10 million years after the formation of the solar system, when the sun was still in its birth cluster, is inconsistent with giant planet instability that was responsible for the late heavy bombardment. A nearby star close enough to aid in Planet 9's capture would also result in the capture of Oort cloud objects on orbits much closer than has been estimated from the orbits of comets. However, Bettigan and Brown remarked that there is a possibility of retaining the ejected giant just by interactions with the primordial planetesimals. Now to cover something else that Johnny brought up as well, that word itself is capable of being rendered as comet as well. Now, folks, I don't know how many of you have paid attention to the varied comments that have been coming over the years, but for some very odd reason, over the course of the last couple of years, we have had non-stop green comets coming in. Now, there has been a lot of research and work done by many astronomers out there that have been proven beyond any shadow of a doubt what the Chinese referred to as vile stars. These are also carriers of plagues. So sit back and take a look at how many massive plague-type incidents have happened here. The most notable one would be Ebola, which was not too far back.
Right. And we
if
had
I can
actually
interrupt you.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
was going
John.
to say, well, there's been many mainstream scientists, bioscientists, that have speculated that they think that viruses probably came from space.
Absolutely. There's astounding amounts of data backing it.
Yeah, absolutely astounding. And ladies and gentlemen, just to put this into perspective, I mean, Brian and I have talked about this, but we've talked about it privately. I don't know if we've discussed this publicly or not, but I'm going to put two and two together for you. The name of the star, the name before in Judges chapter 5, verse 23. It is only a singular letter different than what you've heard me and Brian talk about publicly in the book of Daniel, the 11th chapter, and verse 38. But instead, he will honor a God of fortresses, just one letter difference. The star is Meraz, and of course, the fortress is Muaz. Difference of just one letter, and both of them has the root of Oz, which you know to be the basis for the scapegoat. That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
That answers some questions, like in my mind, because that never made a lot of sense. A god of fortresses. I mean, what is that? I mean, that's something maybe he's not talking about fortresses. Maybe it's not translated properly.
Well, and on top of it states.
Go ahead. Then I think we should
it states flat out
Daniel.
that the Assyrian himself is going to worship a god not of his fathers. And look, you see specifically right now the things that are going on. Something a little different here has happened. There's a different protocol in place for how the Assyrian is working things. And a lot of folks have gotten confused. Well, why are they running around destroying Assyrian cities? Well, folks, that's not his God. He's doing exactly what it is that you were told that he was going to do in this time.
Well, exactly. And let me just say this. I was going to say it, but Johnny jumped in here. Ladies and gentlemen, both the star and the fortress has the same root word. It's the same root word for the scapegoat's name. You can look that up. It's H5810. That's 5810. That is the root word for both of these things. And like I said, once you are able to see this in the Hebrew, it'll rattle your cage. And that is one of the things on the back burner. Brian and I are going to address this point-blank range with both barrels. But, Dori, you wanted to jump in here and say something?
What was that number again? H what? 58 what?
10. That is the root word.
Okay.
And you and I can talk about it later. I don't think Brian and I have talked with you privately about that, Dori, and I'm sorry. We will. I will send you the notes here straight away.
Wow.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this has ramifications because once again, the rabbis knew where to look. They believed what the Word of God says, so they think it rather entertaining that you would believe a liar, and they would call it after that and do a code on that. Brian has brought to your attention exclusively that the whole Zechariah Sitchin thing, well, was an outright blatant lie. He lied multiple times about the translation of the text he was using, but the Orthodox rabbis, they think that's funny. When they know exactly what's going on and they knew to look for it. And ladies and gentlemen, I've had them tell me point blank range that they will give grants to the astrophysics department of varying universities. They will give them grants, the Jews, of course, out of their very deep pockets. I'm not trying to slam them, okay? So don't think that I'm trying to bash on them because I'm not. But I'm telling you that by the backdoor means is how Mr. Neese was able to look in the direction that he looked. And the simple fact that they have now proven mathematically of exactly what the Bible has said the whole time. So with that in mind, it's kind of crazy, but let's go ahead and let Rob jump in here because if anybody's going to bring you up to speed on the scapegoat, that being azazel. That is the root word for everything we've been talking about right here, right now.
Can I say two things before Rob jumps in?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. Number one, I don't know how Zechariah Sitchin managed to fool so many people for so long that he was the only person who knew how to translate Sumerian, because he's not. There's hundreds of scholars that actually translate that language. So that being said, and yes, he lied about a lot of things.
He was a fiction writer, for Pete's sakes, and he got away with it.
Yeah, it was crazy. I know. Anyway, it's amazing what, magicians can do. And the other thing was you talking about those green comets, the vile stars, and plague and Ebola and and Johnny coming in with viruses. Is it possible? Because it seems like, and I know part of it is pharmaceutical companies, but I think the other part of it is, does anybody really know? Or, I mean, really the genesis? I mean, is it what you eat? Is it the toxins you're exposed to? Is cancer coming in on comets?
Well, to be more point blank to your question.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard Brian talk. Well, actually, you heard Brian talk about it first. It was Brian that brought to the Christian community the simple fact that green comets were more than just signs in the heavens. They were harbingers, and they were messengers. This has been talked about throughout the centuries a great deal. How could the ancient Greeks possibly know that these celestial messengers were bringing great plague? But they did. They did know it. And the Babylonians certainly knew about it. And by the way, before Zechariah Sitchin ever thought about touching any text, I assure you that the son of the man who gave us the Hebrew New Testament Bible source code, Franz Delitzsch, was his son. That's the work that I read. I just happened to be friends with a very prominent person when I was in an institution of higher learning. My professor for Old Testament literature, he was able to give, he was able to, through intercollegiate loan, get the text that Zechariah Sitchin had lied about. I was able to read it from Mr. Delitzsch. So just consider these things that I'm going to say it because I have to, because I know some of it, of what I've said, has already sparked people. The Holy Spirit is already nagging at your brain, so I'm going to tell you point blank. Is the scapegoat, is the interloper, is the abomination that maketh desolate to the daily procession of the stars, is it the origin of green comets? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the question, because all the astrophysicists know that they burn green because they're different. They're not altogether natural. So let's just set that upon your stove for further cooking, for further thought. But let us address this root, this Oz, of course, the root for the name of the scapegoat, the root for fortresses, and the root for that bad star. The only star not only named in the Bible, but the only bad star named in the Bible. Let's ask Rob about that, because he has written extensively about the identity of this entity known as Azazel. He has been writing on it for... Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I haven't taken it in the direction that you guys are taking it. and I'm intrigued by what you're saying because of some of my more recent research as regarding stars as angels. And now, there's no question that there are a few places that are where it's very obvious that stars are a word used for angels. Revelation 9:1 most notably. And I saw a star fall from heaven, and to him was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. Okay, so it's a personality. Although I question the word him there. It's a personal pronoun, but it comes from a word that could be he, she, it, they, them, us, we. And the word star there is feminine. So it seems to me that the pronoun being attached to the noun should be feminine also, but that's another story. But in any case, as I started looking through both the Bible as well as the book of Enoch, I'm coming to the conclusion that all the stars are angels. And that's the only way I can reconcile 4 statements made by 4 individuals: Isaiah, Jesus or Yeshua, Peter, and John, all 4 described in an end-time scenario all of the stars falling to Earth. Well, that's not possible if stars are burning suns with planets going around them, and Andromeda is a galaxy full of billions of stars, and there are billions of Andromeda-like galaxies out there. So somebody's lying as far as what stars are. And personally, I'm not prepared to say that it's Isaiah, Jesus, or Peter, or John, which means what NASA has been telling us for the last few decades can't be true.
Well,
and I can't take it metaphoric. I can't take it as symbolic or allegorical if you actually look at the way those words are spoken.
Well,
so
I do.
Go ahead.
Can I say just one thing, Rob?
Sure.
You misstated yourself there in Revelation, the 9th chapter, in the very first verse. That was given the key. That is astrē in Greek. That is masculine. Now, I don't know who told you that was feminine, but that is absolutely incorrect.
Well, this is going back a few years, but this was a long-going discussion that I had with several scholars on it. And I guess maybe it depends on the manuscript you're looking at, but it was Astarte, if I remember correctly, which was feminine.
Right. Well, yeah, that's right. It ends with the alpha. That makes it masculine. No, I know Greek, Rob. It makes it masculine.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna engage in a debate in it. I had several discussions with other people who also know Greek. It was a long-running discussion, but I'm not gonna camp out on that hill. So, whatever.
Okay, right.
That doesn't really matter to me. The point that I'm actually much more intrigued by is the idea of stars, all of the stars, being sentient beings, as opposed to burning balls of fire with planets going around them. And so, having not gone down that path as far as my research on Azazel, you're bringing some interesting, and this is one of the things I got to say I like about Third Watch, and what I enjoyed about the archives that I went through is that was, in some cases 3, 4, 5 years ago, when a lot of us were kind of coming into some of this stuff. It was pretty new, it was fresh, and it was an exciting time of research. It was also a time where there was a lot more collaboration going on among the researchers. I was looking through Dori's guest list, and I was impressed by her ability to literally snatch just about everybody that was really kind of on the scene doing stuff those first few years. Sadly, it seems like everybody's gone their separate directions and nobody's really talking to each other anymore, and we've lost the ability to have intellectual discussion without dropping the heretic bomb or any number of other derogatory terms these days. But I enjoyed those early days of collaboration and looking through things and sharing, what's your insights, what not. And you guys have given me some food for thought in this broadcast with regard to stuff I was already looking into, that being stars are angels. In fact, Enoch tells you point blank that they are a class of angels known as the luminaries, and there's basically a police officer named Raguel, who's the heavenly police officer that makes sure everybody stays in their proper course, And if not, there's a horrible, terrible place of punishment for those wandering stars, of which Jupiter / Zeus is one of the most well known in the ancient world. So, how does that relate to Azazel? I don't know. I've not applied that to this new idea, but you've given me food for thought.
Well, cool, and you're exactly right, Rob. We've moved into a different time, haven't we? I mean, oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, this is the truth. This is a rare event for this many Christians to get together and there not be a crusader among them. I mean, good Lord have mercy. I've seen Rob butchered by his own friends on the social networking site so many times. It is appalling. And they masquerade as being followers of Christ when it is quite obvious to the whole world. They have no remote clue of not only what the Beatitudes mean, they have absolutely no intention of holding to them. And it's discouraging, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. But, Rob, you can have actually a far better conversation with an atheist than you can with these people.
Well,
and it's just
I posted that on Facebook the other day. I am to the point now where I would much rather hang out with, as Yeshua did, publicans and sinners, because they are. I've hung out with them in a number of cases in the military and elsewhere, and have had fantastic, wonderful, open dialogue, and it never degraded into name calling and this assassination of character. Slander and all that kind of stuff. You might get the "oh, you're stupid, I don't believe that" kind of routine, but they would be willing to talk through it. And something's happened to the Christian community, because that's sorely lacking these days.
Yes, it is. Now, before
I want to say amen. I want to say amen. And just the fact that we brought you on with us, Rob, I think is a testament to the fact that we'll always be your friends here. And we don't use the H word, heretic. We might not agree. There'll be things we don't agree on. Oh, well, let's get over it. Let's move on, because I'll tell you one thing. The fringe Christians, the ones that are on the outer edge doing all this groundbreaking work, we've got enough of the church pointing at us and calling us heretics for us to be divided, amongst ourselves. So we need to stick together.
Yeah,
so I will never call you a heretic, Rob.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. For me, if we can agree that Yeshua, or Jesus Christ, if you prefer, is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him, and that is a free gift of grace, not of works, lest any man should boast. If we can agree on that, that's the only thing in eternity, as far as I'm concerned, that really matters. And
Amen.
Then I would call you my brother and my sister. Everything else should be on the table for let's come and reason together. Let's search these things out and see if they be true. What happened to that? Why are people going crazy over completely non-essential issues as it pertains to our eternal destiny? I don't get it. I really don't.
I think there's a lot of pride involved, really.
Well,
I would agree to that.
Yeah, and I mean, we used to discuss. Oh my gosh, I don't know if if Brian ever figured out anything about the field constellation that Johnny had brought that up on that one show, and I mean, did anyone ever really figure out who Nimrod was or is? I mean, there are just a lot of things that we used to talk about, and we used to have a lot of laughs, and too, while we had these discussions and palavered over them, and it's just it just was a really interesting time. As you said, Rob, it was a time where it didn't seem like everybody was hitting themselves, or hitting each other, I should say, actually over the over the head. And I don't know if, I don't know what's changed there, but I'm really glad that we were able to get together and do this show tonight. And I am really glad that Johnny invited you. And I'm glad that you were a guest on the Third Watch show as often as you were. And I think when I interviewed you on Doors of Deception, the very last time I had told you that you had been one of the most frequent guests on that show as well. And so it's nice that you were willing to come and hang out with us and participate in this roundtable discussion. And because you do a lot of conferences, you do a lot of world travel, you do thanks for hanging out with us here as long as you have. It's greatly appreciated, and I do appreciate it. So thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for the invite, for some very lively discussion so far. And I'm curious, is this the beginning of a new Third Watch, or is this just a reunion event?
Well, Johnny's the boss, so
right.
Yeah, it's a reunion, but if he wishes to continue it, he's already made us a show page over there on the Fringe, so that's up to Johnny. But yeah, we'll be happy to do it.
He's a big wig at the Fringe now.
Yeah, he's the boss.
My secret plan has been revealed. The Third Watch is born again.
I do want to say something though here real quick. All of my listeners know that which manuscripts that we use, and I wasn't mad at Rob. I wasn't trying to start an argument with Rob, but the text that we use, both the word in question, and he mentioned the word for him, that is atos, but it of course has the suffix omega on it. That clearly makes it masculine, both words. So that's all I was wanting everybody to know, and that was just for my personal listeners. We have our particular manuscripts that we use for the Greco Bible source code. So I wasn't angry with Rob or anything.
Let me throw in here real quick on top of it. I recall hearing way back upon a time when Rob actually brought that up. And there was something very important to that whole concept when you start beginning to think in the idea of polarities. When you have positive and negative polarities and you have this star coming down with the key to the bottomless pit, it did give me pause of something to think about quite heavily, because when you're looking at a mechanical function such as that, it does sort of open up a door to kind of seeing something in a whole different way.
Brian, it does, and you and I talked about this some time ago, that, ladies and gentlemen, this aspect of Mercury, they can't explain it. The only way that Einstein developed his theory of relativity was to answer the problem of Mercury's orbit. But you need to understand this. What that really means is, ladies and gentlemen, if you stop time, you stop gravity. That's what it means in a layman's sense. But we're going off air, so if you want to finish listening to the rest of the show, please call in. I forgot to say that. I was too busy worried that I had upset Rob. And just so everybody knows, Brian and I do have safety measures in place. If I lose my temper, Brian will hang up on me. I'm not allowed to be a crusader, but I am allowed to be a man. And being a man means I'm afforded a great deal of many mistakes. So if I get emotional, Brian will just hang up on me. And if Brian loses his control, I'm going to hang up on him. We have safety measures in place. Then whichever one does that deed, they will apologize for the one that has decided to be foolish. So just bear in mind that, ladies and gentlemen, that if I lose my cool and I get cut off, Brian will be taking over for me. and I trust Brian to speak as the Lord my God would have spoken. I trust him to do what's right. So we're going to go into another break here. Yeah, Johnny.
Before we do it, I just can we set up a safe place where, we can just be friends and talk about ideas. We don't have to agree with each other, but at least we could get things out so we could talk about it a little bit. Because I don't want to, like Rob was saying, like in the old days when we were, out there, putting these ideas on the table and working them over and picking them up and looking underneath them, I mean, I'd like that. That would be cool.
So are you saying the big wig at the Fringe Radio Network is requesting a sort of recurring schedule of Third Watch?
Yeah, we could do that. Not constantly because, my schedule's unpredictable, but yeah, let's do more.
Okay.
Hey, guys.
And that's all I had.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Sorry, I'm going to have to let you go. I gotta run. But, man, this was awesome. Thank you guys once again for having me on.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
You are most welcome
for sticking with us.
It's been awesome.
Blessings, guys.
Yes.
Good night.
Yep.
All right.
God bless.
Later, bro.
Good night.
Good night. God bless.
Good night. Godspeed. All right, this show break is still processing, so heck. We'll talk about something till it's done processing.
I kind of like, I'm kind of halfway in between Rob's idea. So I don't know, I don't want to speak in his place because I don't know what he was going to say. But I know some people think that stars aren't really actually stars. We're looking at angels. And then you have the other side of the camp, pure science, where they say, well, no, they are stars. They're giant balls of gas held together by gravity. And I'm both ways on that. I think. And I haven't heard too many people, I haven't heard anybody except for King Wells say this. And that I think that stars are actually the physical sources of angels, their bodies. And that's why they're so powerful. Because that's their actual body, is this giant ball of gas held together by gravity. Billions of tons. Of exploding matter, and nobody really knowing what's going on down in the center. I think the stars are stars, but also angels. You guys ever thought about that?
Is that a trick question?
Yeah.
Let me just reiterate what I've said 1,000 times before. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible clearly says that the angel's seed is seteros in the Greek. Seteros. That's iron.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So whenever you even look at any astral body, they will give you its libido. That libido measurement tells them how bright or how dark it is, and that is plainly determined off the astronomical body's iron composition. That's what gives its libido. So, yes, the Bible does infer that the substance of a physical star you see in the heavens is that thing which is the basis for the angelic realm. It doesn't come out and say that, but it's inferred that way in the text itself. So that's my thought on it. Brian, what's your thought on that idea?
Yeah.
Hello?
Sounds fine on my end.
So you're saying that the scripture actually infers that what I was saying, that the stars are stars, but that's where the angels, they're the bodies, the actual physical bodies of the angels.
No, that's not what I meant. Where we are.
Oh,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead. No, that's not what I meant, Johnny. What I meant was that you're made from clay, right? We know what God, or dirt, some translations say. Well, we're made from dirt. The angels are made from iron. Okay, so that's their media. So what we're saying is that the stars are not terrestrial. There's a big difference, ladies and gentlemen, between a terrestrial planet and a gaseous giant planet, or a gaseous giant. Two very separate and different things. One is, of course, made with dirt. That's Mercury and Venus, and, of course, the Earth and Mars. We are terrestrial planets. We're made with dirt. The other type of star is made from gas. It's different, so there is a separation there. Of course, when you get down to that, you realize that it must have an iron core, but that's the only physical aspect to a gaseous giant body, or even the sun. It must have an iron core. That's what facilitates inside of the time gravity sphere. It is this iron mechanism that gives it its magnetic field. So that's all I was saying, Johnny. I wasn't saying that it literally the physical body of an angel. It was just the same material. Do you understand? Did I say that right, I guess?
Yeah. But, the Bible does refer to the angels as stars. I mean, Rob's right. I mean, it does it a lot, especially like we covered it in the book of Judges, in the song of Barak and Deborah. Right? I mean, so there's got to be this link between actual stars and angels. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. Brian, your thoughts on it? I'm sorry I cut you off there.
Well, I was going to point out, if you look at a lot of outside of canon text, you'll quite literally see that you have these quote-unquote angels assigned to, I don't know if the terminology correct or not, governing over certain said stars. So it's sort of complex. You do get this idea continually over and over again in the Bible with stars and the host being hand in hand, coinciding with one another. As Matthew brought up, their material is iron. So if we're going to put this sort of equation together, I guess you have to ask yourself, what are the cores of these stars made of?
Exactamundo. Well, let's go ahead and take a break because I really need to take a break. So I'm just going to play the opening song again because I don't have anything else available. So we'll just do that one again. I'm sorry to play this same song over, but ladies and gentlemen, this is last minute, so I'm just doing the best I can. So we'll be back in 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Please enjoy. Rob had to leave us, and I hope that he went with God's blessing and God's speed. So, ladies and gentlemen, please pray for Third Watch. We've got a lot of people on here that's got a whole lot of responsibility here, there, and the other. So let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be back in 6 minutes, 20 seconds.
Welcome. You have activated all systems. Deactivation is not an option. You must find the truth. Remember, not everything is what it seems. If you don't stand for something, you might fall for anything. The end is where we begin.
From ancient times, things which have not been done. righteousness. It is not far off, and my salvation will not delay. And I will grant salvation in Zion, and my glory for Israel.
Choose your decisions wisely. Change starts with us. Remember, if you don't stand for something, you might fall for anything. Because the end is where we begin.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to what Dori affectionately has called Overdrive. Thank you for keeping with us here on Third Watch. I hope things haven't gone too bad here on BTR. They seem to be doing pretty good right now, but plenty of things to talk about. Dori, what was you wanting to talk about next?
Well, let's see. We never did get to Venezuela. And I don't know if I even want to go there. It's so terrible.
Well, it may be coming here.
Yeah, chicken. I'll read an article from 12 hours ago. Okay. Word had spread that a delivery of poultry meat was due at Central Midnese Market long before dawn. A queue of shoppers was snaking around the block. Caddy Alonzo was one of them. The 48-year-old mother of three was already planning to make the traditional chicken and rice dish arroz con pollo if she could also find some rice. I haven't been able to buy chicken in a month, so I was there early at about 4 a.m. At about 6:30, two trucks finally drew up outside the store, but before the drivers could start to unload, National Guardsmen told them to drive on. Venezuela is rich in oil, but dogged by chronic shortages of basic goods and essential medicines, electricity and water rationing, spiraling inflation, and rampant crime. Perhaps it was not surprising that the mood outside the supermarket quickly turned ugly. Frustration turned to despair, anger to violence. Before long, the incident on Tuesday had escalated. Mobs tried to loot several bakeries and delis and another food delivery truck. The unrest soon spread throughout the city of 200,000 just outside the capital, Caracas. Protesters shouted, "We want food," as they blocked intersections with burning tires and clashed with security forces. Police and the National Guard quickly controlled the outburst, with some 14 people reportedly arrested, and at least one person was injured, according to witnesses. The protests were not related to marches in Caracas and other major cities, which were called this week by opposition leaders to cut short the term of President Nicolas Maduro, who they say has driven the country into the ground through mismanagement. But spontaneous outbursts such as the one in Guarinas may present a more serious challenge to Maduro's rule than any efforts by his political rivals. The opposition won control of parliament in December elections, but Maduro has blocked all attempts at reforms passed in the legislature through government-controlled Supreme Court. Maduro blames the country's woes on economic war against his government by right-wingers and foreign interests. Last week, Maduro decreed a 60-day state of emergency because of the threat against his government. Maduro has described the referendum push as an attempt to justify a coup d'etat or a foreign intervention, and on Friday, the Venezuelan armed forces began 2 days of military exercises as show of force in the face of such threats. But as the events in Guarinas show, the country is on a knife edge. Venezuelans have been living with shortages of food and essential items for nearly three years. Let me read that again. For nearly 3 years, as the oil-dependent economy began to buckle and patience is wearing thin. The Venezuelan Observatory of Social Conflict registered 2,138 protests between January and April, most of them spontaneous manifestations of anger or frustration. Incidents of looting have nearly quadrupled. We're like a ticking time bomb. Tick-tock, tick-tock, said Zenobia Villegas, a 54-year-old housewife who waited in line at the Guarinas supermarket since the early hours of Thursday, only to be told at 3 p.m. that the store would not be opening its doors that day. Dejected, she went home empty-handed. Authorities have reason to be nervous of unstructured shows of dissent, particularly in protest-prone arenas. It was here that protests in 1989 against neoliberal reforms and a hike in bus fares sparked a wave of looting and violence that came to be known as the Caracazo, in which as many as 3,000 people died. Wow. The events are said to be what motivated an an attempted coup in 1992 by Army Lieutenant Colonel named Hugo Chavez, who would later become president and set the country on a revolutionary path under the banner of 21st century socialism. At the entrance to Arenas, a sign boasts the city was the birthplace of the revolution. The charismatic and wily Chavez, who led the country from 1998 till his death in 2013, enjoyed unprecedented support for his oil-funded social programs that brought health services, education, and housing to poor Venezuelans. Maduro, his successor, has not managed to win the same levels of popular support as oil prices have dropped. The country's economy has gone into a tailspin. An opposition coalition known as MUD is trying to force a recall referendum on Maduro, which would cut his 6-year presidential term in half. They've collected the first batch of signatures to begin the process. But for people on the street, that's just politics. We don't care who's in Miraflores, said Marlena Pinedo, who runs a newsstand in Caracas, referring to the presidential palace. We want food. Food is what moves people. Who sells unrefined sugar loaves known as Pepleon in an area called Semaine, where protesters congregated on Tuesday. But so does the feeling of impotence. A rash of mob justice has gripped Venezuela as violent crime soars with little response from security forces. This goes on, and there's lynching and looting and manifestations of anger. And I have read in some articles that they've already been eating dogs and cats and everything and anything else they can find on legs.
Well, Dori, yeah, this is going on, but the article started out the right way. The soldiers showed up and told the trucks to move on.
Yes. And
this has some dire ramifications with what just happened, ladies and gentlemen, a few days ago, because on the 18th, an executive order was announced on the anniversary date for when Eli the high priest died upon learning that the Philistines had taken the Ark of the Covenant. If you know your bridal history, it was on that date that this executive order was released. I'm sure everybody's heard about it in the news. It's different than all the other executive orders talking about emergency response to atrocities. But ladies and gentlemen, they're going to take your food because, of course, the soldiers have to eat first. Doesn't matter if your child starves to death. We know this from, of course, Alexander the Great. Okay? The first thing you do when you invade a country is seed their food stores to feed your own troops, and then they have the strength to fight, and the person that you're invading, they don't have the strength to fight, they don't have food. You see how that works?
Wait a minute, Matthew. Wait a minute. Do you have the executive order in front of you? Could you read it, or?
Yes, it's executive order. What's the number on it? I'm not sure what the number is. What is the number on this? Brian, do you have that number? Do you want to read it, or should I read it? What's up?
I think we can read part. Of this. I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's ridiculously long. People can look it up here. It was released May 18th of 2016. Executive Order Comprehensive Approach to Atrocity Prevention and Response. You'll be able to find this at whitehouse.gov under the press office under Executive Orders. Let me see here. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, Policy, as articulated in Presidential Study Directive 10, preventing mass atrocities and genocide is a core national security interest and core moral responsibility of the United States. And let's skip down past that because it just repeats the same thing. Definition: for the purpose of this order, the term mass atrocities or atrocity, neither of which is defined under international law, refers to large-scale and deliberate attacks on civilians and includes acts failing within the definition genocide as defined in international law and U.S. domestic statute. Responsibilities: the board shall seek to ensure that mass atrocities and risk thereof are effectively considered appropriately and addressed by the U.S. government, and shall coordinate the the development of execution of policies and tools to enhance our capacity to prevent and respond to mass atrocities. And we've got A and B going into this.
Yeah, this is way too lengthy for us to read.
Go through, but I mean, essentially what it boils down to is this is an act being put into place to step in and put a halt to a genocide. This is not altogether uncommon within the U.S. They've done this sort of thing on a multitude of times. The situation in Brazil.
Why are they worried about a genocide in the U.S.?
Well, this is to deal with what's going on in Brazil.
I don't understand.
Why?
I don't understand. Why would the U.S. all of a sudden? Why would the president all of a sudden be concerned with some coming genocide within the U.S.? You guys will have to explain that to me. I must be slower than the other boys.
Well, Johnny,
this is concerning other nations.
As defined here with what Brian just read, because it was clear, Brian read it, said that attacks against civilians. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian read it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is the only entity that can attack civilians? Well, that's a military entity. So,
right.
This takes on a whole new effect whenever you just read what's written here. And that's what Dori just said that. This is what happened. The chickens showed up on 2 trucks. The soldier stopped and said, "No, you cannot eat those chickens. Those are for the army." I mean, that's or am I wrong, Brian? Am I wrong there? Do I have that wrong? But I could have swore that that's the only thing that they could be talking about. It clearly says here, attacks against civilians. Well, I mean, if you're not civilian, you're military, right? Or am I wrong?
Well, or I was going to bring up the third entity that this kind of stinks of, because this altogether reminds me of an exact mirror of what happened in the Ukraine. And from what I'm seeing, we're dealing with a corporate entity. Now, do they have military stripes as the backbone at the moment? Sure. But what's really behind the scenes in this? What was really behind the scenes in Ukraine as a multi-billionaire attempted to completely overthrow the government there and take over?
Okay, wait a minute. Now I'm starting to get it. This is about genocides or attacks on civilians in other countries. So the president issued that maybe with an eye on Venezuela, because we don't like them anyway. They don't like us. At least their president really hates us.
Let's look at something else that came out today.
Well, while you're looking at that, I'll bring up, very right in your face, this is something common we're seeing is financial aspects are directly influencing things that are happening on the ground.
Okay, yeah, that's what's happening, yeah. No, it's like, the French Revolution. Wasn't that financial?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, now you can hear me. Okay, so maybe this article has a little something to do with what Brian just read as well. This is in
Right.
RT, news source RT, and it's from today. Russia proposes U.S.-led coalition to strike Syrian terrorists with Moscow defense minister.
Yep. That bill's been going up and down and up and down. If you look at multiple news sources, you're going to find out on one end it's been approved, on another end it has not. Very confusing story in the news today.
Okay, because that's pretty serious.
You're talking about the U.S. and Russia teaming up, though, right? I mean, that's
But
what that
but you
says,
can't.
isn't it?
Now wait a minute. Stop the bus. You can't do that legally because Russia is not a part of NATO. Only a
Right.
NATO authority can lead U.S. troops. Ladies and gentlemen, Russia is the whole reason why NATO exists. So, what are you talking about? Under no set of circumstances could Russia lead United States forces. That's retarded. Dori?
Maybe they're trying to become a member of NATO.
Okay, let me read this.
Through the back
It says
door.
Moscow suggests that the U.S.-led coalition fighting against Islamic State in Iraq and Syria should fly joint missions with Russia in Syria, the defense minister said. So they want the U.S. to lead the coalition, okay? They want the U.S. to lead it, right?
No, that's not what it said. The military term for mission, you can only have one strata of authority. Brian can tell Brian can tell you this quite illicitly. Any mission must have a clear, defined chain of command before it can be executed.
Mm-hmm.
So, if these two countries come together, somebody's going to have to be in charge. That's what they said. They never said that they never implied with what you just read, Dori, that Russia would be in charge of the troops. They never implied that the UN would be in charge of the troops. What it said was it proposes a mission. Now,
a coalition.
If that right, which means that it's after that point you decide who's going to be running it, either the Russians or NATO.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to understand the military definitions that they put in that article. I heard what they said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, and I'm not familiar with military.
Wait a minute, though, at the end of the article. But wait a minute, you said at the end of the article, I thought you said that they proposed that they get somebody from Moscow to lead it, to be in charge of it.
U.S. and
Isn't
Russia
that what it says?
At the very end, the last two paragraphs say the U.S. and Russia are jointly backing the peace negotiations in Geneva. A ceasefire declared in Syria is part of the process, but it is not observed by some militant groups in Syria, including the terrorist organizations Islamic State, ISIS, ISIL, whatever you want to call them, and al-Nusra. Attacks on government forces and rebel groups which pledge to observe the truce happen on a regular basis in the country, and some occasions provoke violent responses from those attacked. So,
you didn't say the word mission.
It's a joint. They're teaming up, is what it sounds like to me.
Well, let me explain why this is causing, like I said, there's so many conflicting reports coming out today just on that story alone, and here's why.
Okay.
And this has been in the news since before I took my break. U.S. wants Assad out of office. They had done their typical and atypical maneuver of arming the rebel forces to do such a thing. Now, Russia wants Assad in. And this has been at the heart of this controversy from day one. There were times a few months back where the United States would teeter-totter and say, okay, fine, we'll keep Assad in. Let's just get this mess taken care of.
Yeah, unfortunately. But oh my goodness. Like I said, those last paragraphs that Dori read, they never used the military term mission. All they said was, at present moment, that NATO and its enemy agrees with the policy of peace. That's all it said. They never said mission in there. So by the military's definitions, you must first put forth the idea of a mission on the table to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Once that is approved by the Joint Chiefs, then they determine the chain of command. And we were just told that our enemy, the whole reason why NATO was forged, the whole purpose that NATO was made because of Russia, they could be elected to be the chain of command in this mission, and there's nothing the American people can do about it. That's what they said. That's what I heard the article say.
Uh-huh.
Which is unconstitutional. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
And you have to understand on top of it is what has been happening over Syria as we speak, as I said, over Syria, because they don't really want to bring ground forces in there because they know they're cannon fodder. But they've had to coordinate their airspace. When you have multiple planes from multiple nations up there diving in and dropping bombs and so forth, you don't really want to have a confrontation with one another, or you end up in a scenario like what happened with Turkey, where the whole debacle was brought into the light with the Russian plane. They state was crossing the airspace. The others say they didn't, et cetera, et cetera. There's had to be communication between these forces the entire time. Approximately 4 or 5 months ago, we had a situation where Israel came in and hit some forces inside of Syria. They would have alerted Russia and any other air powers that were there that they were coming in. Otherwise, guess what? You would have had planes that were shot out of the sky intentionally, yes, if you pull the trigger, but nonetheless, you have to have coordination going on.
And by coordination, you mean a chain of command, right?
Well, and you altogether have a volatile situation as is when you are bringing in multiple nations with their air forces over the top of this place. You know, I remember when this broke out, I went, this is absolute insanity. This could lead to some bad events very quickly. And sure enough, within days, what happened, Turkey and Russia already began to verbally duke it out after that incident.
Not good.
Not in the slightest.
This is very.
Wait a minute.
Very dangerous.
Go ahead.
No, Johnny, shoot.
Oh. Well, I was just thinking, it just occurred to me, you know, a lot of times when a nice, smiley, friendly man is patting you on the back, what he's actually doing is feeling for the soft spot to put the knife in.
What? Say that again.
You know, when a nice, happy, friendly man is patting you on the back,
yes,
sometimes he's looking for the soft spot to put the knife in.
Gotcha.
Right.
So you think that might be what's going on with Russia? They're being all buddy-buddy, catch us off guard, give us a false sense of security, something like this?
Yeah. Possible.
The fact alone that they are working with the United States collaterally in this situation is rather mind-blowing, considering how ticked off they've been about the fact that we went in and destabilized government after government by setting up puppet leaders. How did Syria... There's the read out button. How did this whole situation in Syria flare up in the first place? I don't know. Somebody was poking their fingers where they didn't belong.
That's usually how it starts.
Look, let's all face it. The reason why Russia got involved was because the Americans had the dirty, nasty habits of bombing hospitals. Okay, has everybody forgotten about that? Okay? So, look, the safest hands for any operation in that area is obviously the Russians because, well, they don't purposely bomb hospitals. I mean, I hate to use history as a whip here, but I mean, me and Brian talked about this before. The reason why the Russians showed up is because we weren't doing anything. We were hitting hospitals and not targeting the infrastructure. I mean, the Russians went in there and cleaned house.
Yep.
Well, and you sit back on top of it, folks, and even some of us, if we watch any of the, fact-based fictional shows that are out there concerning
Johnny
varied things going on with terrorists and so forth, sit back and watch some of these fictitious portrayals where these terrorists bring up, oh, well, let me understand this real quickly. It's okay for you to come in and bomb and kill our civilians and our family members, but the very moment we step up to do something back about it, we're labeled as terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
If you even have a heart, that ought to hit you straight. It's going to hit you straight between the eyes. They have continually, with drone strikes and so forth, have hit multiple civilian targets.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a terrorist attack happen in France, and everybody's running flags over their Facebook photos. Yet how many people realize the larger attacks that took place at the exact same time where more casualties had taken place in nations that were not considered Western? And did anybody raise a hand or even care or want to have memorials for those places? Not like.
Right. Weren't some of those in like Uganda or somewhere in Africa? Johnny, I have no idea what you're doing, but you should mute your mic.
Oh, I'm just sitting here. Is it me?
Oh, really? I don't know. It sounds
Maybe it
like
is
you.
me.
Are you like?
Could be. What do you hear?
Like, I don't know. It sounds like you're at the gym lifting weights or something. I don't know. I'm not sure. I
like
know.
what? Like breathing?
like I'm pretty sure you burped like 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll mute it. It was going on the whole time?
Look, we don't have the background noise of people yelling strange, odd things in the background and everything else. It would not be a proper show. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah, man. No, you stay live, Johnny. Don't listen to her. We need that stuff.
Sometimes I grunt and moan. I've heard recordings of myself. I'm like, what the? I must be suffering somehow. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, at least we know what we were listening to. Yeah.
Good point, Brian.
Yes.
And it makes you wonder. Look, man, I don't want to say it, but I have to. It makes you wonder. Oh man, if the attacks were coordinated, and it was we who had done the dastardly deeds in these countries that weren't claimed. And now you take a look at, Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, I know what they're covering up. Ladies and gentlemen, what was it, the 16th? Or maybe it was the 18th. Maybe it was the same day that Uganda signed that thing for their oil pipeline. Man, I'm not lying to you because I got people in the oil field that went straight to Uganda. They got oil fields there. Hello. And the problem is that we're looting Uganda. That's why they hate us, because we're not paying them for the oil. We're just taking it, that and the gold. We're actively stealing right out of the gold mines and oil and not paying them for it. We put it on the tankers and we just take it.
Kind of like we take all the poppies from Afghanistan.
Well, yes, and to point out on top of it too is people don't realize why it is that France got put under the radar of these terror groups when, if you go back in time, I remember looking through these stories of varied takeovers that were happening in these smaller countries, what people refer to as third world countries, etc., where France was knee-deep in the middle of it. And recall how I brought up Sykes-Picot, that one little treaty that nobody talks about. France and Britain disassembled the Islamic Empire way back in time, and they just completely took all their land away from them. Nobody could say a thing about it. And then people wonder why it is they're ticked off and they want an Islamic Empire again.
Why didn't they just
why
build
is it
casinos?
that we even have to stick our noses in it in the first place?
See, if you were in
Because
Minnesota,
that's what we do. That's what makes America great.
and if you were in America, okay, especially in Minnesota, you would build a casino. I mean, that's what they did. We did terrible things. Not just Minnesota. I'm not talking about Minnesotans did terrible things, but the United States government did terrible things to the Native American Indians. And so in Minnesota, to appease them, they said, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to let you build casinos. And whatever you make off the casinos on the Indian land, you can keep. Not thinking it would ever, ever, ever turn into a big, huge, multi-billion
Same thing happening
dollar.
here.
Right. Yeah, Wisconsin, same thing. So, but over there, they're mad, obviously. I mean, they want to retaliate. They want their Islamic empire back, just like what Brian said. We're over, I mean, it's like so weird. I'm sorry, just like, I don't know why that comparison came to my mind, except that it's just weird how different cultures deal with different types of things. Like one can be appeased with casinos, and one's been at an endless, almost an endless war since, I don't know what day.
Well, Dori, it's even the verbiage that we use. Ladies and gentlemen, all the people in Minnesota, they are called Minnesotans, okay? They're not Native American Indians, and even if they're on a reservation, they're Minnesotans.
Yes, exactly. I'm sorry.
So quit.
I misspoke.
So, and we do this all the time. It's like Christians and Copts.
Yes.
If you're one of the original people that live in Egypt, they refuse to call you a Christian. You're Coptic. You're not supposed to know that. And what Dori's describing is what we allowed to happen to Minnesotans. And we just let it go on. But this article here, I'm looking at it right now, and this was on the 12th. This just happened. This is in conjunction with everything. Uganda chooses Tanzania over Kenya for oil pipeline, of course, because, well, why would they want to go way out of their way and not go through? Well, ladies and gentlemen, look it up as to why they'd want to do this. And the picture on Dori, did you get that link I sent you?
Oh, hang on just a minute. I'm sorry. I have to work tomorrow, and I'm starting to get really tired. Anyway, Uganda choose Tanzania. I do have it. Do you want me to read it?
I want you to describe the picture that it uses for the article.
Oh, brother.
It doesn't show an oil pump. It doesn't show an oil pump.
Right.
What does it show?
It's got, one of those flames. We used to see Persian Gulf War used to show the pictures of the flames all the time, but there's some apparatus built around the flaming, and there's liquid coming right out of the pipe, out of the flaming thing, and the whole background behind it is on fire. It's it's on fire, and there's one guy standing there looking off into the distance.
And I like his jumpsuit. That looks just like a Slumberjay jumpsuit. But anyway, yes, Dori, you're not seeing a well pump here. You're seeing a threat to Uganda if they don't use Tanzania for the route instead of Kenya. There is no reason why any person in the oil field would look at this picture and be safe. They're realizing that what this is a direct threat saying, you either do what we want or we'll just blow them up.
Right.
That's a torch head on that web. That's not
them Ugandan navies, they did not go to the moon in a 1969 Chevy like we did. Otherwise, they'd be taking our oil. So, and when our president, the Donald, comes into power, they're going to be lucky they even live.
Well, Johnny.
And he's not going to put up with no bleeding heart. We took the land from the Indians, liberals.
Okay, Johnny. You've been listening to the Torah codes. Have you not heard what they found in the Torah codes?
Oh, no.
No, really?
Oh no, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you know what they found in the Torah codes, Johnny?
No.
Oh, I am so sad. It's the big pantsuit is going to take it.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's what the Torah codes say. It's Hillary. Oh. Yeah, her name shows up and not the Donald. So, I don't know.
We're going to be, okay, if that's true, we're going to be building casinos in Uganda.
Okay, well, I just
oil
have
in Alaska.
In the Lord, my God, and I don't care who the people put into power because we have to render to Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
I disagree with that to a point. I mean, because, God puts, people into power, but, in America, I mean, we got to try to rock the vote. I mean, because that's another part. I mean, God's going to put whoever he's going to put into power, but in America, he's going to do it because people voted for it. So, anybody needs to rock the vote, I think. I'm not a big fan of the Donald, but him against Hillary, with her as an alternative, well, please. We're done. If she gets in office, we're done. I'm going to go with Matthew Miller's original prophecy that he gave us. Oh, that was about 6 months ago when Donald really had very little chance. He was just being a windbag and not very high in the polls. Matthew had nailed it to at least till now. I've just been amazed. I can't remember exactly what Matthew said, but Matthew was what I remember about what Matthew said is that Donald's pretty much going to take it. And then there's some other trippy stuff that's going to happen. Matthew, do you remember any of that, saying any of that?
Yes, I remember all of that. But what should be of everybody's major concern right now is, ladies and gentlemen, she's under federal investigation by the FBI.
Yes, exactly.
And it's an open and shut case. There's no reason for it to go to court. She is guilty of high treason. She is guilty of espionage. Mm-hmm. She's guilty of it. She had a private server with secured information. Ladies and gentlemen, that is espionage. She can't be president. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, what Nixon done was nothing. That was only entertainment. That was done for you for entertainment purposes, what happened with Nixon. She should be in jail already because there is no question. There is no evidence to present. Do you understand? There's a difference between evidence and facts. We already have the facts. She should already be prosecuted without trial because we don't need to present evidence. We already have established facts. She has done espionage.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that.
Wow.
Yeah, but that it doesn't matter what anybody's done. They'll sweep everything under the rug. I mean, look who we've got for president now. He wasn't even born in America.
You know what? Exactamundo. By the way, we have to cut this off. We've got 4 minutes left.
Yep.
And I don't have a time clock. The old one had a time clock, and I don't know how much is left in archive, but I'm showing 11:56.
Yep.
So we need to say goodbye now.
Yep.
I'll go first. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless, Godspeed. Dori?
God bless, good night. Thank you for listening.
Brian?
Thanks for coming, everybody.
God bless. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And I'm hoping we do this again shortly.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, as with all things, Bri, the Lord's will be done. Johnny, jump on here and tell us bye, but you need to give the listeners a heads up on whether we're going to do more of these or whatever, and where they're going to be and all that good stuff. Then say goodbye, and I'll just end the episode there. We're pushing 3 minutes now, so go ahead, Johnny.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I'm down with doing more episodes. My schedule, Friday night, yeah, maybe not. My schedule on the waterfront, I never know if I'm going to get a job. So, I mean, it's not these episodes that we do. You can't really count on me. So, I guess what we can do though is if I got a job on a Friday night and I can't make it, you can run it off of the Prophetico site. So we'll just do it that way. So archives of this, and cleaned up a little bit too, will be found at fringeradionetwork.com/category/third-watch, and also on Spreaker. So we'll do more of these, definitely. I love hanging with you guys. It's awesome. It's like my favorite thing. So, and in the words of Ozzy Osbourne, I love you all. Good night.
It's the Disneyland Resort Diamond Celebration. Don't miss your chance to see it all dazzle. And come celebrate new beginnings, like Frozen, a musical spectacular. Plus an all-new Soarin', both coming this summer. And don't miss Hyperspace Mountain, an exciting Star Wars thrill. Come to the place where summer dazzles. Visit Disneyland.com/60. Check for entertainment times, availability, and end dates. Subject to restrictions and change without notice. Park admission subject to capacity.